Tonight, we're talking about Andrew Callaghan of Channel 5 fame and Seattle of, Ken Griffey Jr. fame. Once the jewel of the Pacific Northwest, now the cautionary tale of what happens when progressive experiments collide with reality.
Welcome to the X.REPORT.
Seattle is not just a city, it's the backdrop, the breeding ground, the mood board for Andrew Callaghan's brand of liberal gonzo ideology. A city where rising crime rates, ballooning costs, and endless reforms created a stage for outsider narratives to feel authentic until they weren't. And just for what it's worth, I'm a Seattleite. And now that's where the crack really shows, literally and figuratively. Callaghan's Channel 5 built its name on authenticity, but when it decided to platform Hunter Biden, America's most infamous addict, turned political proxy, the veneer shattered. Tonight, we connect the dots. A crumbling city, a self-styled truth teller, and the former president's son, all tied together in one very modern case of narrative collapse. Since the 1990s, Seattle's leadership has been a parade of progressive mayors. Norm Rice, Paul Schell, Greg Nichols, Mike McGinn, Ed Murray, Jenny Durkin, and today, Bruce Harrell. Each promised reform. What the city got was taxes, regulations, and a steady unraveling of public safety. Starting with policing. In 2012, the DOJ slapped Seattle with a federal consent decree. That's Washington speak for a legal settlement where the feds take partial control of your police department because it's so broken it can't be trusted to fix itself. It means federal monitors, judges, oversight committees telling your cops how to operate. Why? Because City Hall couldn't keep them in line. For Seattle, it was a scarlet letter. 13 years later, this year in 2025, the feds finally recommended lifting it. During that time, officer staffing collapsed to 30-year lows, and overtime spending exploded. The results? Seattle tied its all-time homicide record in 2023 with 69 needless deaths, matching the bloody high of the mid-90s. Lawmakers, meanwhile, kept ratcheting up the cost of living. A $15 minimum wage passed in 2014 is now indexed above $20, making Seattle one of the most expensive labor markets in the country. A head tax on big employers passed in 2018 and was repealed a month later because even Amazon threatened to pack up and leave. A payroll expense tax in 2020 came up short by nearly $50 million in 2024, forcing cuts elsewhere. This is proof that City Hall spent money it didn't really have. And don't forget the soda tax, because what's a better way to tackle crime than to charge extra for a Mountain Dew? It turns out it mostly made grocery prices for the working families higher. The bottom line, housing costs keep climbing. Rents average in the mid-2000s right now, and the city has been under a homelessness emergency since 2015. So against this backdrop of failing governance, let's talk about Andrew Callaghan. He first made his name with All Gas No Brakes, a gonzo-style show interviewing outsiders and fringe subcultures. It was entertaining, it was amazingly humanizing. It goes down as one of my favorite channels on the YouTubes. After being fired in 2021, he launched Channel 5, a name born from a guerrilla trick. Saying you're filming for Channel 5 makes people act like they're on a local TV station, and it worked. It stuck. Callaghan's roots run through Seattle's Capitol Hill. He moved there as a kid, soaked in the city's underground culture, and says early protests over police shootings pushed him towards radical politics. He studied journalism, hitchhiked the country, and self-published All Gas No Brakes, a hitchhiker's diary, before the series became a viral phenomenon. His style is straight from the Hunter S. Thompson Louis Theroux tool belt. It's deadpan, let the weird breathe, and keep the mic rolling. On camera, that means long stretches where the subjects hang themselves, or charm you, or both, without any pushback from Andrew. It worked when he camped in Capitol Hill's autonomous zone. It worked in his spring break tours, his trucker protest, NASCAR races, and subcultures that rarely get mainstream attention. The brand promise was, I'm just showing you America. You decide. With This Place Rules on HBO, Callaghan framed the pre-January 6th world as a cautionary tale of right-wing disinformation and hysteria. In 2023, sexual misconduct allegations hit, and he posted an apology, said he'd seek therapy. Channel 5 kept rolling, now with more sit-downs they call Fivecast, and a clearer editorial lean. The outside whisperer had become a political interviewer with an ever-blossoming left-wing ideology. Enter Hunter Biden. In June of 2024, Hunter was convicted on 3 federal felonies for lying about drug use on a 2018 gun purchase form and unlawful possession. In September of that year, he pled guilty to multiple tax offenses in Los Angeles. Those are on the board. There's no guesswork about this. His own memoir details his crack addiction, cooking it, binging it, living in the chaos. He describes shacking up with a homeless addict and torching his personal and professional life. That redemption arc is part of his public brand now. In 2019, a Delaware repair shop says Hunter dropped off a laptop and never retrieved it. Does this sound familiar? In October of 2020, the New York Post published emails from a copy of that laptop's hard drive, and left-leaning social media platforms throttled the story, citing hacked materials, disinformation concerns, and of course, big media outlets passed entirely. Later, forensic reviews authenticated thousands of emails, enough to show real communication, even if the chain of custody for every file is messy. It's there. One verified thread is a Burisma advisor thanking Hunter for the opportunity to meet his father in Washington. That's not proof of policy change. That's proof of access talk around a sitting vice president's son. So let's recap real quick the Burisma story and why it's so important here. Burisma Holdings is a Ukrainian energy company founded in 2002 and headquartered in Kiev. It was one of Ukraine's largest private natural gas producers with multiple drilling and exploration subsidiaries. Hunter Biden served on the Burisma's board from 2014 to 2019, earning around $600,000 annually, which, rightly so, set off serious conflict of interest concerns as Joe Biden was vice president, overseeing what? Ukraine policy. The company was already under scrutiny for corruption. Its owner had been investigated for money laundering and bribery. Those investigations miraculously stalled while Hunter sat on the board, raising serious red flags domestically and in the U.S. diplomatic channels. This innocuous thread sheds light on the massive potential for Biden administration corruption deep into the heart of the Ukraine. But Andrew issues Hunter not a single poignant question. Another juicy data bit about the laptop regards the CEFC. In 2017, partners discussed a CEFC venture and an equity split where, quote, 10 held by H for the big guy. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, so let's start with CEFC, which stands for the China Energy Fund Committee when referring to its nonprofit arm, and China Energy Company Limited for the parent conglomerate. So China Energy Company Limited was a massive private Chinese conglomerate founded in 2002, involved in oil, natural gas, and finance. At its height, it was ranked among the world's largest companies on the Fortune Global 500. Now, China Energy Fund Committee, the CEFC, was its affiliated NGO, which was registered in Hong Kong and Virginia, that worked on energy policy and international relations. The company collapsed between 2018 and 2020 after its chairman, Yi Jinping, was detained in China on corruption charges. So now let's get back to the quote that we started with. 10% held by H for the big guy. Hunter would hold 10% equity for the big guy, which Tony Bobulinski later testified under oath was a reference to Joe Biden, to literally no one's surprise. Meaning, the sitting vice president's son was openly structuring deals where a foreign company with ties to the Chinese Communist Party could funnel equity to his father, quietly, off the books, and hidden behind Hunter's name. That's not consulting. That's not lobbying. That's an alleged mechanism for laundering foreign influence straight into the Biden family. That's why its U.S. deals, this never-ending Hunter Biden laptop story, remain under the microscope. Debate the implications all you will, but the money trail and the communications are on paper. Add a 2017 WhatsApp message where Hunter pressures a Chinese counterpart while invoking his father. To quote the message, "I am sitting here with my father," which investigators later read into the record. Hunter has tried to explain or minimize that message. It exists. Again, it shows he was leveraging his father's presence as a bargaining chip, a proof that the family name wasn't just a resume line. It was the product being sold. What was Hunter doing with Burisma and CEFC? His value prop on paper is straightforward. He's a Yale law grad from 1996, an ex-Amtrak board member, longtime DC lobbyist, lawmaker, finance guy. He was the co-founder of Rosemont Seneca. That resume equals connections, compliance optics, and US-EU door opening. In 2014, he was hired to the board of Burisma, while his dad was the VP over Ukraine policy. That doesn't look good. Burisma said he helped with its legal unit and support among international organizations, i.e. governance and PR cover, while the firm's owner was dogged by corruption probes. Optics were bad then, and they're certainly worse now. So as a part of a rebrand, Burisma aggressively recruited Western names to its board to shift that perception. Hunter Biden and fellow board member Devin Archer fit that mold perfectly. To quote, "It was to protect the company," one insider said. This also offered political weight on speed dial. Newly released whistleblower documents reveal Burisma specifically courted Hunter for his political weight. Executives openly plotted to announce his appointment after Vice President Biden's trip to Ukraine, this to avoid the bad press. And perception is everything here. Burisma described Hunter's role as consulting on transparency, good governance, and international expansion. But insiders admit his biggest value was his last name, aka his connections. Meanwhile, before 2014, we know Hunter has had long-standing struggles with alcohol and drugs. By his own account, he joins the Burisma board in 2014. A year later, his brother Bo tragically dies, and Hunter's relapse escalates. Ex-wife testified that she found a crack pipe that July. From there, he spirals into heavy crack use. For the next 3 years, he develops a severe addiction problem, documented in his memoir and then later at trial. The story extended to crack binges at hotels like Chateau Marmont, contemporaneous with the 2017 CEFC negotiations and the 2018 Gunform episode where he lied about his drug use on the Gunform. Only in April 2019 does he leave Burisma. This overlap matters. The peak addiction window lines up with the CEFC deal-making and the back half of his Burisma tenure. If your asset is supposed to provide sober judgment, compliance hygiene, and high-stakes international vetting, a crack addiction, by his own telling and courtroom testimony, is a glaring risk factor for judgment, leverage, and vulnerability. Was he compromised? I think the better question is, how compromised was Hunter Biden? So, knowing all of this, just as Andrew does, when Channel 5 sits with Hunter Biden, the job is not to nod gravely and let him litigate, grudges. The job is to press into those receipts. Burisma access, CEFC equity talks, the WhatsApp leverage text, the bank wires, the convictions and pleas. Instead, Hunter was graciously invited to use the platform to throw brand new hand grenades, like the Melania Epstein claim, while basking in the glow of the recovery narrative. When the First Lady threatened a $1 billion defamation lawsuit, Hunter shrugged it off. Callaghan kept the video up. That isn't speaking truth to power. That's letting power cosplay as the victim, while you and I, the audience, play therapist. So, back to Andrew. He built trust by humanizing outsiders. But Hunter Biden isn't an outsider. He's the insider's son with a rap sheet, a memoir of self-destruction, and a digital paper trail that would bury a no-name lobbyist. Applying gonzo empathy here isn't journalism. It's a reputational car wash. When the subject is MAGA, Callaghan cross-examines the vibe. When the subject is Hunter, he validates the vibe and skips the cross. That double standard matters, especially to audiences in cities like Seattle, already wobbling under policy delusions and accountability gaps. You learn more about Hunter Biden here, right now, than on Andrew's Channel 5, who's supposed to be giving us a look behind the curtain. Instead, Andrew portrays a hopefully recovering drug addict as a DC leftist Christ figure. Like, what the hell is that? Seattle shows us what happens when leadership ducks accountability. Andrew Callaghan shows us what happens when media does the same. The city crumbles, the truth gets softer, and the audience, we're left dumber.